of loneliness and misery and suffering and unhappiness, and it's all over much too quickly. The question is, have I learned anything about life?
Hello, everybody. Zames Unokami here, your host of Essence of Zen After Dark. I am joined by co-host, the man of the hour, the king of D&D, the man who rolls the die of chance every single day, especially in this weird time of 2021, in the era of the Delta, I might add. I'm speaking of none other than Andy Piranha Baldwin. Andy, how are you?
I am doing well. I do not roll the dice quite nearly as frequently as you would propose, however. I do, in fact, wear a mask.
You know, I didn't even think about how that would come off.
Yeah, it's okay. But... you can open with a broad besmirchment of my reputation.
I just meant you were playing a lot of D&D lately.
Yes, good save.
Honestly, in fact, I do wear a mask as well. But the reason why this episode is so late is twofold. One, I fell behind my own schedule, as I often do. That's nothing new on this show. And two, I actually got sick pretty badly for 2 days, and I'm not actually 100% sure if it was or was not COVID. The first night was the most horrible point of it. It was just a pretty high fever, nothing too dangerous, and I won't go into details, but some not so happy times. But day 2 was feeling better. Day 3, I was on the better side, just kind of tired throughout the day. And I bet you're wondering, why didn't you go get tested? And I thought, if it is COVID, I'm already recovering. I don't want to leave and probably spread it. So it is what it is. I am vaccinated, both shots. And if we do get more clarification on booster shots, I'll sign up for that. But that's going a bit far, and I don't want to get political because people have been weird, especially when it comes to their cousins, friends, and Trinidad. You know what? Let me just stop before we go down a road that I don't want to discuss. What I do want to discuss, however...
Stay healthy, people.
Yes. What I do want to discuss, however, is, one, Andy, I want to thank you tremendously for recommending me to play Celeste.
Yeah, I've been really enjoying watching the Let's Play.
What about this week in particular? The set of rage-inducing videos.
I mean, it's just B-side.
I'll tell you this now. I will probably not jump into another B-side so readily in the near future. I don't know, because you know what? No,
I mean, to be fair, watching you play, I don't know if you read the comment that I left you, but watching you play, like, it's impressive how quickly you improve. Because I didn't play any of the B-sides, period. And just watching you play them, or just not even them, but just watching you play the first one makes me be like, maybe I should go back and play some more Celeste.
That'd be nice. You might do some streaming of your own.
Well, it's on the Switch, so.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I might have. Wait, no, yeah, but whatever.
Since you brought it up, I am actually planning on potentially resuming streaming once Darkest Dungeon 2 hits.
Was that announced?
It's announced, and it's the early access. The start of early access, I believe, was announced. I don't actually remember off the top of my head. But it's going to open access is only going to be on the Epic Games Store.
Actually, I think I have heard a bit about this. Yeah. And for the record, personally, no, I don't care. Whatever helps developers, get some extra cash to make good games, especially games that I like. I was a big fan of Darkest Dungeon 1, so I'm all for it. Also,
yeah, the comments on their most recent video have been less than friendly towards the EGS, but
look,
hey, it is what it is.
If people really want developers to only release on one place or not go exclusive to another, how well they probably don't have a donation place to pump money, but just buy the game 10 times. Go and just buy the game. Be like Skyrim. Just buy. Because unless you want to feed the mouths of people who are working to bring you a game that you enjoy, I don't think trying to die on a hill complaining about what digital market it's on is a viable, reasonable, or logical response. But hey, everyone picks their hills to die on. So, I mean, you have that right. I'm just going to point and laugh when they do. Ugh.
Wow, Zane, we only got sidebarred twice in the first 5 minutes.
Classic. So yeah, Celeste, I'm really enjoying it. You guys can go check it out over on the Essence of Gaming channel for the direct link. It'll be youtube.com/c/Essence of Gaming ELZ. There you go. A quick mention, again, not to go too deep into the pool side of scum or just craziness, I guess one would say. I just want to make a note that no, Victoria Bras do not have a tracking device in their tags. Moving on. And a little bit of upbeat, a little smile to one's face. You know, when goats are out here being goats, it's great to see because we got to see our good old friend Steve from Blue's Clues come back to the internet and then do like a 5-minute video and literally bring happiness and joy to so many people with a very simple message to everyone. And it was breathtaking.
I quite enjoyed it. It's incredible to see how little the man has aged.
Indeed. I still remember back when it's like a maybe 8 to almost 10 plus years ago. Shortly after I got out of high school, I believe, or it could have been a little bit before then. But no, the images had surfaced at that point about him and his band, because he had started a band for a short time, and I was like, that's not Steve. Steve isn't bald. And then I found out the reason why he left Blue's Clues as well was because he was balding, and they thought that he wouldn't look, or he would look a bit off to children.
I mean, honestly, I respect the move.
Yeah.
Because I don't think that's necessarily an incorrect position to take, you know?
Mm.
I know it's kind of shallow, or at least I can look at it, you know, as somebody who, you know, is in his mid-30s and be like, oh, well, you know, but, you know,
Where are you going with this, Sandy?
I do think that there is some merit to being concerned with one's physical appearance when dealing with young children.
Oh, absolutely. Fun story. One time I went to go see. It's about like oh God, I'm getting so old. I keep going back to like 5-6 years ago. About 7 or 8 years ago actually. Went to go see a movie. Movie was done. Walking out. People were in line or waiting for their theater to go open up for their movie. And this kid was running around, and then he was walking backwards, and he bumped into me. He stopped, turned around, looked up, and saw me at my 6'2.5" height with long dreadlocks, and he screamed. So yeah, I can understand just being a monster to the children.
Zane, I'm not going to say the first thing that came into my mind, but you know why he screamed. We'll get back to that topic in a moment.
Okay. Just for reference, though, those many years back, I was in an area of liked people. But anyway.
This eloquent dance that we dance.
We gotta avoid the YouTube authorities. Well, I mean, later in the show it might get flagged because a blizzard will be coming in the show. Actually, no, that can be taken really badly as well. A blizzard is over the horizon, coming later in the show. Yeah. Anyways, let's talk about.
Hello down there. Do you need any help digging that hole for yourself?
You know what? If Minecraft taught me anything, it's always dig directly beneath yourself. Always.
Yep. I see you're capitalizing on that knowledge right now. Just going straight down.
Almost as down
Pick in
as
hand and no bucket of water to be found.
quick tangent. We recently got a comment on the last podcast episode. And there's a point where I show off a Minecraft server running in the background. Person had asked me what mods was running for that particular set. That was one of the FTB mod packs. I believe it was the Cotton mod pack, Cotton something. It's essentially it's a lightweight mod pack for the latest versions of Minecraft. If people will be interested in learning how to set that up, just let me know. I can do a video on it. It's actually not that hard, especially with multi-MC. But I digress. I'm digging myself a hole as fast and as downward as Epic was with their battle against Apple. You like that segue?
Oh, is that where we're jumping to?
Yeah, I rearranged because I did not want to end off on such a sour note with the original setup.
For sure.
But yeah, wait, is that where I had it? Yeah, Epic versus Apple ruling. Let me just switch the. This is so. This is why I need a producer to just handle this stuff for me. Anyway, how much of the Apple versus Epic debacle do you know about it, Andy?
About as much as we have discussed.
Okay, well,
And we have discussed it. So
yes, and oddly, so. Spoiler alert, I thought this was going to go 100% into Apple's favor, not because I think Apple is right. In fact, I am quite livid in general of how Apple has been handling their practice and their market and their platform in general. But I will do longer rants on that later in a video. But no, it's kind of a both parties lose and both parties kind of win, but Apple did get the better side of things in the results of this lawsuit. So
I mean, let's not be too hasty here. There's already been a motion for an appeal. So
yes, and I honestly hope it goes further.
The gears are still in motion on this one. We've just sort of we've reached the end of this particular chapter.
So for those who either did not listen to, forgot, or just completely, new to this entire situation, Apple has a set of guidelines and rules about how you must manage your own application on their market, that being the App Store. And one of those things is you cannot avoid the Apple route of transactions so that they can always get a pay cut of every single transaction that go through your app on their platform. Now, part of that is completely fine because, in all honesty, Apple made the market, Apple made the platform. Apple is the one who became this big juggernaut where everyone uses their devices and uses their tooling. So if you want to go into their space, then yeah, they have rules that you should follow. So the problem stemmed from, though, when Epic said, hey, we don't want to do that, but there's no other way for a user to get our game on their devices. It's kind of like you run a monopoly on your own devices, on your own platform. And that's where a lot of the true messiness kind of bubble up into. So they took them to court, and this ruling has been going on for months, if not a little bit. Has it been a year, or has it just been like 6 or so months? I don't know. Anyway, Apple said, hey, they skimped out and skipped around those pay cuts or the Apple tax, and we want our money. And the court basically ruled in favor of Apple and said, hey, yeah, no, you agreed to do their rulings or their rules in their platform, and you skimped out on that. You owe them that money. However, the judge also went, yeah, but no, Apple, yeah, it's kind of weird that you kind of make all these rules and things to force users to do X, Y, and Z. And they can't even, have a button or a message or anything that points them outside of the Apple ecosystem within their app to either tell them what's going on or to do some type of other transactions. That's wrong. You need to change that. And so I believe now that Apple has a certain time limit to follow before they have to change their practices and their standards of their markets to allow app users to have links, have buttons, and have things that can go outside of the Apple ecosystem into the developer's own ecosystem and have fun. However, Apple still went, yeah, Epic, we're not going to reinstate your developer profile, or so, no Fortnite on Apple still. Ugh.
I mean, honestly, all that stuff, kind of strangely to me, seems perfectly reasonable. Like, Apple had rules, Epic was ignoring them. So, yes, there are consequences for that. But also the judge coming down and being like, Apple, you must be more reasonable. A little unexpected, but still not terrible. Apple kicking Epic off of their platform, they're allowed to do that. That's fine. Everything about this kind of pretty clean, actually, which is weird.
Yeah. That's like the only problem I have with this rolling, and what has me kind of steaming, or fuming rather, steamy. I'm always steamy. I'm hot. I'm like a hot meat bun in the oven. Anyway, the judge had ruled and stated that to them it doesn't seem like Apple is a monopoly, and this is one of those real tricky areas. But to me, if you have a platform and you have your devices and you say, okay, my device can go to my market and download what I allow on that market, that's cool. But if a developer says, okay, well, I don't want to go through your market, and they go, okay, that's fine, you can make that agreement. But then if the developer goes, okay, well, here's the file to install the app directly on your device, and my device goes, no, I won't allow anything outside of the Apple Store to install on my device, that's a monopoly. You are literally not letting any other competitor on your device without your specific approval. Even if you say,
I think that the counter argument there is that you can change your device.
yes,
Right? Like the device has rules and you've agreed to follow those rules by using the device, but if you do not like the device's rules, you can get a different device. I just said the word device way too many times in one sentence.
yes, and while that is a sound argument, one would then ask, and that comes up with the other arguments of, well, then you don't really own the device if you can't do what you want on your own device.
I mean, if you want to get into the philosophical ramifications of ownership in a late stage capitalist society, we can do that. But I think then we're going to end up with some wildly divergent opinions there.
Yes.
I think that the real question is what constitutes a monopoly. If you do have an option as a consumer to change how you interact with the mediums of having, for lack of terms of a more business acumen associated individual, having apps on a phone. If you want apps on a phone and you have a phone that says you can only have these apps on a phone, and you have a phone that says you can only have those apps on a phone, then you can decide between these apps and those apps. And if you don't like either of those options, then you can root around for third-party options. So basically, what I'm trying to say is that in what my understanding of what a monopoly is, as long as you can make those kinds of choices, then you don't have a monopoly. Is that correct? No, I'm not like a business major. I'm just saying that is a position that I can understand and articulate.
Yes, and if I'm not mistaken, I think that is the general argument across the board for many things. And again, this is kind of edging to that capitalistic idea, but it's the same concept of how there is Georgia power. In the state of Georgia, there is like maybe 2 companies that can provide you power, and of course, depending on where you live, won't have access to.
Let's not conflate a public utility to a phone.
True, but depending on what state you're in, it's not a public utility. Texas.
I mean, is Texas really a state anymore? Haven't we fired them yet? We dealt with a few years of shenanigans, and then we were just like, no.
Bravo.
We just gave him the boot.
Bravo, Eddie. Perfection in its finest. But okay, well, because in that sense, I was going to argue internet, but personally, I agree that internet should also be a utility.
Yeah, right.
But
we already know where that ends up. Honestly, I think it's difficult just in general to make a parallel like this, just because we live in a more and more nuanced society where everything kind of needs to be judged more and more on its own basis, and the more carefully we scrutinize any given topic about anything, really, the finer we see the details become, and the more we have to stipulate on.
Yes, and one I guess example, one portion or one element that I was going to introduce just for a bit, because we talk about this a lot typically when it's me and Lewis talking about tech and EVs, but Tesla actually fits into this paradigm really well around their charging network, and how literally the government forced Volkswagen to create a charging network to compete with Tesla, just so there wasn't literally a monopoly on electric charging in the U.S. But yeah, like you say, it's a weird realm. But to boil it down back to, again, and this falls into my personal biases, I can't stand that move from Apple. I can understand it from the business aspect of trying to get as much money as you want and keep control over your system, but just as a personal belief, if I buy something and it's mine, I want to do what I want to do on that device. And that goes beyond just Apple, especially people looking at me going, you have a Fold 2 from Samsung. Yeah, they're just as guilty. Just as guilty. So, yeah, again, biases are there too, but oh, man.
Capitalism. I mean, that is a fair and undesirable or understandable desire.
Yes.
But does that make a monopoly? Yeah. Noises are, I think, about as good a response as we're going to get without consulting
professionals who cover this topic for more than 12 years, and even they themselves don't have a perfect answer.
We'll see if Legal Eagle makes a video about this.
I like Legal Eagle. He's pretty cool.
He is pretty cool.
You want to know what's not cool, though?
I'm sure there's a list, but
essentially things that bring cold air, like blizzards coming through to wreak havoc upon all suspecting residents of a village that works their butt off, only to then be harassed by said blizzard. And what entity is that blizzard? Why, it's the company Blizzard. And Ubisoft and other gaming companies in general. And, you know, I gotta ask, man, because I don't want to go into like full details of all the allegations and things. Most people either know about it, or two, they can go dig a little bit deeper, because it gets pretty heinous. And while this show is not, you know, for kids or for the babies, there's still some elements that I just don't feel comfortable just talking about it personally.
We here at Essence of Zen do not condone, but also do not feel that we are particularly well equipped mentally or parasocially to discuss the ramifications, implications, and wide-sweeping societal impacts of sexual harassment and assault in the workplace.
Yes. And to sum that up,
don't do it.
Yep.
Don't. No. Don't.
Essentially, from me to Blizzard, fuck you. And I might not even bleep that out. But yeah, I gotta ask, because the topic point for this particular subject, for those who are listening and or watching, is essentially game companies being exposed for horrible practices. And, you know, it ranges from the sexual harassment, general harassment, abuse to just genuinely horrible management of like overworking staff and etc. and more. And recent events from Blizzard, specifically Blizzard, was basically just the tip of the iceberg because and it's not like this is new. We had situations with again Ubisoft, EA. There's some complaints at Rockstar. People who make
Riot
Grand Theft
Games.
Auto and Riot. Oh god, yeah, Riot Games. So this is
It was actually interesting. One of the first things when this first, breached the surface, people were being like, "Oh man, Blizzard, blah blah blah, doing XYZ," and I was like, "Riot did it first. Riot did literally all of it first.
yeah.
Everything you are hearing about, Riot did first, and Riot is still in the throes of it, just as Blizzard is now getting into it, and so, I mean, it just goes to show that." Like, we haven't had any actual ramifications from any of this yet, other than consumer response. But part of gaming, as much as it's loathsome to say, a part of gaming culture is that, at least for the kind of gaming culture that we're referring to specifically, is something of a boys' club, and it really just isn't healthy for like the social aspects of the industry and all of the companies independently, and even all of the players, even though ironically women actually make up the majority of gamers. It just so happens that their audience is more casual and less social related, but that doesn't like mean that they're not
Games.
playing video games. Yeah. It's just not a gamer the way you would think of a gamer at like the start of the century, right? But I mean, it's changed, and as with anything that's been established, that change is meeting with resistance, and apparently is continuing to meet with resistance. Hasn't it been 2 decades? What year is it? But all that having been said, I know this is something you're probably not aware of, Zane, because I know you don't know the board game scene very well. But the owner, I don't want to say CEO, it's not that big of a company, but the owner of a company called Broken Token was accused of we'll call it severe sexual misconduct.
Okay.
And he essentially responded with, "Yeah, so what?" Like, he didn't even really deny it. He was just like, it's not that big of a deal. And that really just goes to show that that's just kind of, just sort of a sweeping mentality that's very easy to have. And it's very easy to just like sort of sink into it as sort of a default stance, not because you've really made a concerted mental effort to really evaluate like what you're thinking, what the consequences of those thoughts and actions is, but rather as just sort of a default, well, it's not like who's really getting affected here. Like, I mean, it's unfortunate for some people, but it's kind of a footnote. And I think that mentality is like, it's simple, but it is also, I think, default, which sucks to say out loud.
But it's not wrong.
Because you would prefer that people be a little bit more cognizant about their actions and repercussions on other people, but it's just not a thing that's super. It's not actually that's not even fair to say. I was gonna say it's not a thing that's like super embedded in our society, but I do actually think that it's embedded in our society. I just don't think it's prevalent enough. I do think that there's a lot of people that actually do care a lot about this sort of thing. And I'm not talking, I'm not even dividing a line on like gender or anything like that. It's not like, well, all the women care, but all the men don't really care. There are a lot of men who care like a lot. I'm one of them. Please don't be a dick to other people. But, and this occurred at about the same time, like shortly after Blizzard stuff was all coming to light, a couple months later. And I know that one of my friends who worked for Broken Token, he also cares, and now he's unemployed. So that's it screws up a lot of stuff when you like you can't get away with it forever.
Nope.
And unfortunately, the longer you can get away with it, ironically, the worse not only the fallout becomes, but also your entire like business structure or your entire social structure or both become. They kind of get warped. Zane.
Sorry. Maybe put it on silent. But continue the warping.
You have entire podcasts that get warped around a single ringtone.
Sorry.
Anyways, that was about the end of it. It's ended a bit unceremoniously, but you get the idea.
Yeah.
It's a weed, really. It's a weed that, if you don't yank it out, it becomes your entire lawn. And then once it's your entire lawn, you can't mow that lawn and expect it not to grow back. So now you just have a lawn full of weeds. And eventually, you gotta kind of hope that the homeowners association doesn't notice, because as soon as they do, they're gonna come in with Roundup and they're gonna kill your entire lawn.
Yeah.
They're gonna metaphorically kill your entire lawn. That's a metaphor. I'm not expecting Blizzard, I'm not expecting the Reaper to sweep through Blizzard, And then you have this, and then you end up in this really difficult situation where there are people who care about the situation but have to work at these places that they disagree with because they need to make money in order to continue to exist as people. And because as much as I'm totally an advocate of, if you disagree with the policies of the place, don't sponsor the place, don't work at the place, whatever, so forth and so on. And, you have a choice, quote unquote. Some people really don't have a choice. You build your life around making $90,000 a year, and then you find out that the place you're working for has been, killing puppies behind closed doors. Can you really, can anybody really expect you to just literally throw your life away?
Pick up,
just because your
over
company is terrible? And that is an awful, awful place to be. I don't like looking at it. I wouldn't want to be in it. Because that is definitely one of the places where morality is the most easily compromised, is in the face of just trying to exist, right? And it just sucks. Some people have that luxury, but not everybody does. And then you're the person who has compromised their morals so that they can continue to live. And then you are also part of the villain. You're also part of this villainous super team. So it's just terrible. It's just terrible. And we're working on it, but it's a little slower than we'd all like.
Yeah. Well said, though, man. I don't think there's anything I can add to that. Beautifully phrased, beautifully put together, well thought out. Yeah. If I had to say anything, I am partially happy that this is coming out in light now, and more eyes are getting on the topic and the situation at hand. Because when you stated earlier that people in the world care, and a great number of people care, I honestly believe it's one of those things that, most people just don't see it. And a lot of times it may be within eyesight, but they're not processing it. So when you really get it out there, when you really put it face front and you force people to actually see it and acknowledge it and prove that, hey, that's what's going on, I believe that's when you normally see the most action, because at that point, subconsciously people can't avoid it anymore. And not to twist the view or try to give anything an out. A personal observation for me here is that it's friggin' weird that we're seeing a lot of these things come to a head at a point where in society, worldwide, globally, because of the freaking pandemic, is at a state of so much stress, anxiety, frustration, and desperation that everything is just kind of going crazy. And I to someone, please do not take this and put it on a soundboard as if I'm saying the world is coming to an end. Or
The world is coming to an end. The world is coming to an end.
Zane said it. He said no. Because it's weird, man. Like, you know, one thing I found funny, and I say this in like a depressing funny, not like a oh man that's great kind of funny. Airports, airplanes. The number of crazy events of people attacking people on planes, spitting on people on planes, having what seems to be a mental breakdown on planes.
Okay,
I don't know.
but to be fair, that seems a lot higher than it actually is, because those events get widely publicized, and for good reason. They're freaking crazy, but it's not like a dominant thing.
No, but
And it's receding all the time.
Yes, but it just bothers me, because like when those things actually hit the news and became publicized and talked about, no one really had any like, oh wow. It was kind of like a
I mean, but yeah, but that is not like apathy.
Right.
It's the consequence of like years and years and years of recognizing the inherent insanity of like a specific subsection of society.
Yes, and that's what I'm saying is depressing and sad, because it's like society is becoming conditioned to not be as surprised or as affected. I don't know. I don't know. It's weird. It's like how you said it earlier with the, you know, so what kind of narrative. Like, it should not be a so what. It should not.
I mean,
be...
I don't think that's the same response though, because one of them is reactionary and the other is reaction to a reaction. You know, being indifferent to somebody freaking out on a plane isn't that you don't care about the consequences of the plane. It's that you recognize that the person who's wigging out about having to wear a mask on a plane has an invalid opinion that is not worth engaging.
I would argue with you there. Specifically, one of the situations I'm referring to was a lady who had to be duct taped to a chair, and people were saying that she shouldn't have been duct taped to a chair, even though she tried to open up a plane door when they were in the air.
I'm not going to get into like fringe situations like that. I'm going to go on the assumption that on plane flights that involve people who are wigging out for some reason, that I'm going to assume that the majority of them do not get duct taped to their chairs. Okay, that's kind of just a blanket assumption that I'm making. Is that assumption correct? Boy, I hope so. But I don't know. But you know, without going too far down the, you know,
society,
global societal fallout ramifications.
We live in a society, Andy. I had to.
I know. But anyways.
Next topic. Something a little bit more positive, because that's exactly what I did not want to end the show on. So, PlayStation gaming event, the PlayStation Station of Play, or Play Day, or State of Play. That's what it was. Did you see the videos? Did you watch anything? Did anything stand out to you?
Yes, and yes.
Well, tell me about them.
Well, so here's the thing. I can only get so excited because I don't have a PlayStation 5, right?
Fair.
So that does put a bit of a damper on stuff. That said, the Wolverine trailer looked cool. Honestly, as somebody who really enjoys Marvel, I kind of liked it the most. I know that there were like longer and prettier trailers, but it was just very clean in terms of like conveying information to me. while all like telling me that what to expect while also not telling me anything else. Like it was just
Yeah,
like it gave me Old Man Logan vibes, and I love Old Man Logan. Old Man Logan is one of the very, very, very few comics that I actually own.
interesting. Because
Um,
I don't disagree with your take. I just, to me, it was like, hey, Wolverine, that's neat. I don't know. Aside from the slight Hulk reference I saw,
I didn't see the Hulk reference.
there's
I
a
know that
license
you
plate.
commented. Oh, a license plate?
Yeah, and it says like HLK and then the number and some numbers. And the numbers is the issue of the Hulk which Wolverine debuted in.
Oh, interesting.
Which, it could
That's a
mean the
neat
Hulk
little
is in
Easter egg
it,
then.
or it's just paying homage to Wolverine's first appearance in the comics. So
I mean, hey, making making people wonder. It's a good way to generate buzz.
fair
Um,
point.
Star Wars Knights of the Old Republic remake. I'm
Yay.
extremely, I'm, well, I'm gonna hedge myself. I'm not extremely excited, but I'm pretty excited about that. Especially if it releases on literally any other platform.
It
Again,
is.
not because I have an issue with Sony, but because I have a PlayStation 5. Um, in fact, in terms of company rhetoric, while Nintendo does have an angelic halo, I actually think that Sony is the cleanest in terms of how they interact with their customers.
Agreed.
Um, so, uh, so I'm excited to see. The reason why I'm excited for Knights of the Old Republic remake is because I own the original Knights of the Old Republic on Steam, but I've never ever managed to make it work cleanly. I've always had performance issues while playing it. So getting it remade so that I can actually experience it to me is exciting. I would look forward to that. Those are the ones that really jumped out at me. I know that there's a whole bunch on the list. I don't know if there was any that particularly jumped out at you, Zane.
So personally, the things that I enjoyed most were while I am also excited for Knights of the Old Republic, I am also extremely cautious about it. So I'm pulling a lot of that back and say I'm gonna just put that off to the side, and until I see more, then I will throw my hands up and shout, hey oh hey, when it happens, and if I like it. But aside from that, oh man, God of War and Spider-Man 2. Really had my goose cooking, and I'm in the wrong tab. Yeah. So, specifically God of War, right? I bought a PS4 Pro like 2 years before, 2 or 3 years, no, 2 years before the before the PS5 was announced. No, or maybe I think it was like 1 year before the PS5 was announced. So I got it for pretty cheap, and of course I bought God of War, and I loved it. The plot, the story, the cinematic aspects to it, the relationship building, the way the character are arcing, and I'm look, I'm all for it. And same thing with Spider-Man, and then the DLC with Miles Morales. I am a big fan of the Miles Morales character. I love the way that he was portrayed in the DLC slash, you know, standalone version of the Miles Morales Spider-Man game. And I am really interested to see if Spider-Man 2 will actually be like a co-op game where you can have two players, one playing Parker, the other playing Morales. If not, that's fine, but I'm just curious.
I honestly hadn't even thought of that. The way it was presented kind of struck me as like an assist feature, where like you play as Peter, but you can like call in Miles for like a double attack or something. It would be very interesting to see it as a cooperative experience. I think it would be maybe not difficult to execute on, but you definitely have to make some stipulations because if they're trying to emulate the feel of the first game where like you could just swing straight down Broadway or whatever. I think that'd be extremely difficult to replicate with two players on the screen at the same time. Like, God forbid somebody takes a turn. Like, it's all over. But that would be neat. That would be neat. You could obviously do it with split screen. I'm not saying that it's like impossible, but
Yeah, I wasn't even considering split screen. Because I don't. I think there's only like one or two games on like modern consoles that aren't like indie or niche that offer split screen co-op play. But I mean, I'm still here for split screen co-op gaming or couch co-op gaming in general, because I grew up with couch co-op gaming with my two older brothers. But that aside, though, and like I am a big Venom fan, and I friggin' like squeed. I squeed like some weird cobble from the nether of Minecraft who's being burned in a pool of lava. Weird analogy, I know. Don't judge me. Because but Venom in the game is being voiced by the man himself, who is Candyman, and I am ashamed of myself because I forgot the actor's name. So let me rectify that with a quick 2-second Candyman actor. I have to see the new Candyman, Tony Todd. So very happy about that. Happy to see him getting more work and becoming more relevant and voicing one of my favorite characters of all time, Venom. No, I don't want, because people might not have played the PS4 Spider-Man, so it might be a spoiler if I tell them any more details about what happens at the end of the Miles Morales DLC. No, the original Peter Parker PS4 storyline, I think. Was it? Yes. No. Yes.
I mean, tell him anyways. You have 5 seconds to bail if you don't want spoilers.
Yes. Okay. So skip ahead maybe 1 minute if you don't want to hear these spoilers. At the end of one of the storylines from the previous Spider-Man game, you find out that Harry Osborn was essentially injured. He had some type of disease or disorder that was attacking his nervous system, I think. And so Norman Osborn was using Oscorp to fund experimental research to try to get him healed and healthy, yada yada yada. And at the end, it shows Harry in a tank with some type of weird dark substance, and it's attaching itself to him. So very likely, Venom in the Spider-Man 2 game, and this alternate timeline of PS or PlayStation Spider-Man, Venom will likely be Harry Osborn. So it's not confirmed, but heavily implied. At least to be likely in the start of the game, maybe some type of plot happens where, because I think Kraven is hurt in the Spider-Man 2 trailer.
Oh yeah,
and yeah. So it's not. People have already speculated that the symbiote might get off of Harry Osborn if it is Harry, and then end up being on Kraven, and the final boss fight will be a symbiote covered Kraven, which would be a callback to I forget which comic number, but a comic exists, little story arc where Kraven does have the symbiote. So
I mean, who has the Venom symbiote not possessed?
Exactly.
In the comics, let's be real.
And yes, Doctor Strange has had the symbiote.
Dude, freaking Hulk being possessed by Ghost Rider has had the Venom symbiote.
Yo.
Are you familiar with that panel?
Yes.
Me am smash for vengeance. Yeah.
Oh my goodness. So yeah,
it gets buck wild in the comics.
That's one thing I do love about comics, especially Western comics. It just sometimes some things I don't enjoy because they get a little too stupid. I agree, but some things are just fun. I'm not against things that are just fun. I like the fact that there are multiple flavors of things that people can enjoy. I just wish that the industry could continue giving that wide range of multiple flavors to their fan base, their readers. But let me not step into the world of why I am not happy with DC and Marvel, not just in movies, but also with comics, also with TV shows, also with cartoons, also with cartoon animated movies. But yeah, I digress. Still enjoy the games, though. Still enjoying the games. But those two were the massive games that stood out to me. And this is essentially also where I wanted the topic to kind of fall back in line on, because I got to ask you, Andy, does it seem like the game industry, not just with the horrible stuff going around in the actual employment side of things. But as a whole, does it seem like things are struggling? You know?
I mean, in what regard?
Okay, so I guess I kind of gave you a massive, wide, broad thought there. So I'll just step out on the field and tell you what is currently grinding my gears. All right, let me pop my knuckles. All right, so I thoroughly enjoyed the PlayStation State of Play. It wasn't perfect. It didn't have a bunch of whistles and bells and things, bells and whistles. But the biggest complaints that I've seen that's been made by a lot of games, and again, loud minority, but still things that irk me nonetheless. Oh no, Thor isn't hot. Thor isn't this app having Chris Hemsworth looking beast of a beauty in God of War. Oh no. One of the Jotuns is a small black girl. Oh no. Grand Theft Auto 5 is being talked about and re-released for like the millionth time on another system. Oh no. Skyrim again so it's like a lot of these things that people are literally getting so frustrated about, and people are saying they won't buy the game because Thor is fat. Because a character doesn't look like what they think a Jotun should look like. Because Grand Theft Auto 5 is also being released on current generation. Do we want to call the new stuff current yet? I don't know. I think we had that question in the past as well.
We did. Is it a bit indicative that we haven't resolved it yet?
Maybe. Yeah. It just feels like in a time where we're getting some cool news, some cool games, some things that people have asked for, people, and I know this isn't anything new. So and oh my god, I'm getting back on to making this into a sour note. I just don't see. I'm tired, Andy.
Well, use it. So first of all, this is not indicative of the games industry struggling whatsoever. If anything, it's indicative that the game industry is doing fine and just chugging along.
Fair point.
I'd rather have something to talk about than not. And everything that implies. But, like, again, going back to, speak with your wallet sort of thing. Why does Grand Theft Auto 5 keep coming out? Because people keep buying it. And to be fair, I think Grand Theft Auto 5 actually has a lot of replayability. And just in terms of like, not in terms of like story, obviously, like who gives a crap, but just in terms of like what you can do with it. Like there's a huge dedicated roleplay server for Grand Theft Auto 5 that I'm only vaguely aware of. It is like it is a blip on my radar, but it's something that I'm aware of,
Quick shout out.
I got a lot of people.
I got to give a quick shout out. Shout out to Markiplier. His character, Stan the Waterman, is glorious. I'm sorry. Please continue.
Shout out to Grand Pooh Bear and his character, Mick Flair. I just had a weird thought about Grand Pooh Bear listening to this podcast, and now I'm self-conscious. But no, same thing with Skyrim. Skyrim's got a lot of replayability. I'm not like it doesn't have modability on platforms, but
it does.
Oh, it does?
Yeah.
Oh well, then there you freaking go, right? Like the reason why these games keep coming out is because they came out like in the perfect spot to be able to be built upon, and then people did. So you can really warp it into whatever you want. Whatever kind of experience you want to get out of it, you can get more or less. And then, I mean, yeah, sure, people are going to complain that not every character is like quote unquote mythologically accurate or, a straight white male Adonis. But I like it's already pretty well proven that representation is extremely valuable to the game industry. So, yeah, sure, a couple of people are gonna be upset because we got fat Thor from the Marvel movies, and God forbid a black woman appears anywhere. But I guarantee you that both of those things are going to help the game more than they're going to hurt it. I mean, to be honest, Fat Thor probably a little neutral on, but representation definitely a boon. So sure, people are going to complain about it, but they can do that. Let the sales figures do the talking.
Yeah. Also, I would, without getting into too much of a soapbox personally, I just want to clarify for many people who might have a knee-jerk reaction or a knee-jerk thought with a few arguments to go against the representation aspect of it, right? Look, personally, I know what it's like to see something that you might be tied to. I know people are legitimately very close to whatever type of Norse family lineage that they might have. And with that comes a type of pride when it comes to, even if it's fake, but the pride of the mythology that comes with that lineage. I've seen things like Gods of Egypt and how completely disrespectful a project can be towards mythology or some type of heritage type of structure. Okay, there is a massive difference between taking a character who is not described as any type of color or type of thing. They're literally let me not also rally fans to be thinking of trying to be negative. They are not humanoid by nature. They are shape-shifting beings. They are beings who literally give birth to other creatures like Jormungandr, the world-ending serpent. So, in my opinion, I don't see why there's a big outrage when it's this character, and not say not someone who has been quote unquote well documented. I use that very loosely. Or if every character of all Norsemen or whatever was changed into something else. So the point being, there's a very stark difference in how changes or interpretation of characters and specific things and that lines up with said mythology and etc. And when you have the actual developers and the writers and the character design artists and whatnot who have come out and stated they've been reading the lore, they've been reading the mythology, everything tied to it for like the last freaking decade. And they make sure, they did their research and taking that into account for the design of these characters. It's a little bit better than just, oh, well, it's Norse, so everybody should be white. Or, Jotuns, I seen it in a Marvel movie, are blue, so they should all be blue. Hey, quick post-edit Zane here. So there's actually a line of tweets that I became privy to that kind of summed it up by the director or one of the bigwigs for the God of War Ragnarok project. But it essentially kind of boils down and explains a bit better what I'm trying to get across here. And that is quite essentially, with all the changes that the team has done within the Norse mythology for the God of War post PS4 series, from the fact that Loki, a Norse god, is literally the son of a Greek god in this interpretation, from certain dwarves being turned blue and others not, and etc. Jormungandr is out and about, before Loki is even Loki. All of these changes. And as the director or this particular bigwig, I'll bad on my part for not having it. Matter of fact, give me 1 second. Matt Sophos, and he's the narrative director and story lead on the God of War Ragnarok game. Put it himself, out of all of those changes, with like the massive sweeps of differences that they've done in their interpretation of the Norse mythology, literally fused with a Greek individual, a Greek mythological entity in the Norse mythology. After all those changes and those differences and those adaptations of their interpretation, if your biggest gripe is either Fat Thor or one of the other characters, being of color, who's also a Jotun, you might want to reevaluate yourself. Because again, if you truly want to play the card of Norse mythology being disrespected in this case, there's a lot of bigger changes that one could raise an eyebrow at. But I digress. You can find those tweets that's made by that narrative director via twitter.com/Matt Selfos. That's MattsOphos. Sorry for the quick and sporadic little intermission here, but I thought that was really important to point out because he kind of summed that up in just really nicely. So, yeah, back to the regular scheduled program. Thank you. Curve your enthusiasm, curve your upsetness, curve your anger, and reevaluate it. So, soapbox over. Sorry. And people probably still won't like that, but whatever.
I mean, I think it's a legitimate stance. I think that a lot of people only even have opinions on this stuff because they're given a platform to voice their opinion on. I bet if you go back 3 decades, in terms of like media or like readily available information about games, you got the back of the box to look at. I guarantee you could throw these games at people and they would just play them and they'd be like, yeah, sure. Anger Boda's a black woman. That's a little weird, but it's cool,
I mean, you know what? And to be fair, I do remember back when the animated Beowulf movie had released, people were complaining about his son being like gold or something. So I don't know. I will always say that the way someone feels is completely valid, but the response or the outlash is something that people should think twice before they act. And at the end of the day,
but they won't.
They won't. At the end of the day, they won't. But no, at the end of the day, look, if it's something that you don't agree with, something that you do not like, just don't buy the game. Don't support it. I saw Gods of Egypt. I can tell you this right now. I did not pay for it. And and hey, if that was that creator's decision, more power to them. I to this day, I will not stand by that garbage film. So, but I'm not going to send death threats. I'm not going to complain and demand that movie not be sold on DVDs or that not to rant about Gods of Egypt. That movie was also horrible, just by movie standards. It's just a bad movie. It's all around just the writing, the plots, the characters. The acting was awful too.
I didn't see it, but I did see a review of it that lasted about 15 seconds, and the review was essentially no.
Yeah, right. So maybe I'm also having an easy target when I reference this movie in comparison, but my point still stands. But I also other complaints that also make me go like, what was Alan Wake? Alan Wake is getting a remaster. It's a beloved game, and honestly, the game was pulled off of stores, so you cannot buy the original Alan Wake anymore. Like on Steam, it's not there, and I believe the actual CDs are back when they were in rotation in distribution. I forgot the terms, but
distribution.
Yeah, it's distribution. Thank you. It got pulled from that, and like they stopped because it was like some type of legal issue, I think, with like a song or something. But it was pulled, and now you're having this beloved game come back, being put on the market, remastered for people who probably missed out or who wanted to play it or whatever. this is a legitimate reason for this game to return, not just because of a remake or a remaster. And people were saying, why you keep making these remakes? Be original. You guys are lazy. Eh. Welcome back, Alan. Welcome back.
I do not have anything to add to that.
Oh, okay.
Nothing of significance.
Yeah. No, no. So that's pretty much going to be our show. Again, and the moral of the story is, as it has been for multiple times now, support things with your money, and if you don't want to support something, don't support it. I will verify, or I will agree with your feelings are valid, but they're valid because that's for you and your emotions and your opinions, and they can stay with you. You can publicly put them out in the space. I'm just saying, if people reply back with not so nice things and giving their opinions, their feelings, and their emotion with equal weight, don't be surprised. Okay. And Andy, what's your what's your closure? What you got for us? Because last time you brought us, was it Wild?
Come on, Zane, you can do it.
No, I remember the game visually. I just don't remember Wild Time.
You're close. Wildermyth.
Oh, that was oh, you humor me, sir. So what you got for us this episode?
So this episode, I have something a little outside of the regular wheelhouse. I have a game called Regicide.
Here I thought it would be Luck be a landlord.
No, that's still in early access. But no. Zane, are you familiar with a standard deck of 52 cards?
Yes.
What games do you know for that?
52
Like
pickup.
do you know like Rummy or Gin Rummy?
I know of those.
Poker.
No poker.
Texas
yes.
Hold'em.
Texas Hold'em. Spades.
Hearts.
Blackjack.
All that good stuff.
Yeah.
Oh.
Oh, it's a forehand. Okay. Sorry. Maybe that spoiled it.
Not too long ago, a new game was conceived by a small team of 3 individuals to play with a regular 52 card deck. It is called Regicide. It is a cooperative fantasy, quote unquote, card game using a standard playing deck where players work together to fight the monarchy, basically. You have a fistful of cards that represent both abilities and damage, and you combat the jacks, queens, and kings, which are separated into their own deck. And each turn you play cards to deal damage. If you don't take them down, they hit you back, and your hand is also your health. And it is a simple but compelling new addition to your repertoire for standard deck playing cards. It's a really interesting game. Each suit has different powers that allow you to like heal or draw more cards or even deal more damage, or so forth and so on. But each jack, queen, and king of that suit is immune to that suit's powers. And it's fully cooperative. If anybody runs out of cards in their hand, everybody loses. You can find the game pretty easily online. Or the rules for it, I should say. Because again, you just need a regular deck of cards. You can find the rules on Board Game Geek, and I'm sure that it's on other locations as well. And there was a Kickstarter recently for a Regicide unique deck that basically had printed on like every single card like a picture of like a person, or all the aces are called animal companions. So there were animals printed on all the aces and stuff like that. And it's just a neat little game. It does require at least 2 people, but it's fully cooperative. And yeah, I think it's definitely worth a shot, as you know, something as simple as just a regular playing card deck is still capable of being iterated on. It's not as perhaps mind blowing or enthralling as Celeste or Wildermyth, but I think it's a neat little game, and I felt comfortable recommending it because it just requires like a regular. Like, I don't know if I really want to recommend board games on here, though I might at some point. But just in terms of something that anybody could easily and immediately have access to, go download the rules for Regicide, have a read, and then grab the nearest human to you and sit down and play a game.
Well, I mean, with Tesla coming out with the Tesla bot, I mean, you can grab the nearest Android as well, but Also, I found the Kickstarter. I was showing it off while you was describing it. I do want to have a quick laugh and say, when you first said Regicide, I went to Steam, searched, and I pulled up Warhammer Regicide, and I was like, oh, okay. And you're like, oh, card games. I was like, this is not what he's talking about.
Sorry, a bit of a bait and switch there.
But it looks cool, and hopefully, just showing off the Kickstarter for the unique deck might get them some extra backers. The art looks fantastic, and as you stated, you don't need a unique deck for it. So, hey, you might have something for upcoming
But if you
Thanksgiving.
do like visual aids, you can get the deck and it's still like a regular deck, the deck of cards. So.
So, when you have this holiday with Thanksgiving in December, and you have family around, and you want to play a card game around the fireplace, try out Regicide, because we all know Spades will have your uncle shanking the nephew because he won $5 off of him because he had an ace slipped inside his sleeve, and
It's fully cooperative.
Maybe not play with family, play with friends. It'd be probably better time playing with friends. That will do it for the show. Hope you all enjoyed. This is a different way than I normally do the filming for the show. So any feedback in the chats for the video version, I guess for the audio only listeners, if you want to send us some feedback on the audio quality, that'd be nice as well. If you want to speak out and talk to us directly, if you don't want to find us on Twitter or email us at afterdark@essenceofzen.org, then you can go to discord.chat/essenceofzen, join up on the Discord, come say hi, and again, make suggestions or even critique or act a fool and get the band hammer. Either way, we recommend you to come say hi at the least. I guess for also just to reiterate at the start of the show, I was not implying that Andy does not wear a mask out in public. And
I don't have to, but I do it anyways.
Yeah, because you're considerate.
Responsibility to other people.
Yes. I have other choice words to say, but I just there's been enough negativity in this particular episode as it is. So
it's been a rough one. So.
It's been a long time. Or I forgot the song. Getting from here to there, or getting from there to here to there. But my time is finally here. It was on an old sitcom show on like WB like a decade ago. Oh no! It was small. No, was it Smallville? Smallville's intro? Oh man, I can't remember.
I did not watch enough television to be able to help you here.
Nor
did I.
Yeah, I just wanted to say.
Apparently. Yeah. No, I know what you're attempting to reference, but I don't even know enough about it to be able to clarify for you.
Awesome. I'm pretty sure somebody will send me corrections after the show goes out. Thank you all for watching. We'll catch you in the next podcast episode. I will catch you in the next video of Celeste over at the Essence of Gaming channel, and I will catch you in the future PEMDAS video that is coming out on the EOZ channel. And spoiler alert, multiplication and division are weighted equally. When you're dealing with multiplication and division, you go left to right. So just because multiplication comes before division in the word PEMDAS, or please excuse my dear Aunt Sally, does not mean you always do multiplication before division. Same thing.
Truly the best note you can possibly end on. High school maths.
Yes.
Good night, everybody.
Good night.
See you, nerds.
Essence of Zen After Dark is recorded by and for geeks and nerds alike. The intro and outro songs were provided by ProLeader, who you can find at proleader.bandcamp.com. That is PROLETER.bandcamp.com. If you have suggestions for topics you want to see on the show, then feel free to drop by discord.chat/Essence of Zen and join the community and give us said suggestions. Thank you.